Okay, this is the second video on solving quadratic equations by completing the square. And in this video I'm going to show you how to complete the square if you've got a quadratic function where we've got ax squared plus bx plus c, and a is not just 1. So in the first video we did it just with 1 because it's a little bit easier. And here we'll look at what happens when a is something else. I would suggest, if you don't quite remember what happened in the first video, that you go back and watch it, because I'm going to do some of the stuff that's the same. I'll do pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 examples, 2 on this page and 2 on the next. So we have to complete the square here. We've got 4x squared minus 24x plus 4. So if you remember before, the first step was just to put these first 2 terms in brackets to sort of visually separate it. And we're going to do something similar, but with one extra added thing. We're going to take these first 2 terms and we're going to factor out whatever the coefficient on the x squared term is. So what I mean by that is that we're going to write this as 4 times, and here it'll be x squared, and that will always be x squared, because this number you choose it because it's just the coefficient there. And then you say, well, 4 times what will give negative 24x? So it's going to be negative, and it's 6, because 4 times 6 is 24, negative 6x. Okay, and then we've got this plus 4. So that's the first big difference. We sort of have to do that, and then later we're going to sort of undo part of that. But that's the big thing that's different this time. Okay, the next step will feel just like before. We have x squared minus 6x, and I want to make that into a perfect square. So, to figure out what we need to add and then subtract, we do negative 6 divided by 2, we get negative 3, then we do negative 3 squared, and that's 9. So, we've got x squared minus 6x plus 9, but we can't just add it, we've got to subtract it as well, plus 4. Okay, the next step before was just to take this out of the brackets. And that's still what we're going to do, except that right now, if you notice here, this negative 9, along with everything else in this brackets, is multiplied by 4. So here's, watch real closely here, because this is where the most mistakes come in. This part stays the same, 4 times x squared minus 6x plus 9. I'm going to close the brackets, but instead of just writing minus 9 out here, I have to multiply it by that 4. So it's going to be minus 36. And then I still have this plus 4. Okay. Okay, and then the last bit is just the same as we had before. So it'll be 4 times. And then what is this the perfect square of? And it's going to be x plus or minus this number. That negative 6 divided by 2. So it's x minus 3 squared. And then we just simplify. Here we have negative 36 plus 4, so it's going to be minus 32. Okay, and you can graph, and you should when you're doing practice questions, because there's so many places to make mistakes. Graph the first line in y1 and the second line in y2, and it should just look like one problem. Okay, here's the next one. This almost looks like the ones from the last video, because here we have negative 1x squared. In a way this is simpler, and in a way it's so much simpler that sometimes people forget the little extra detail that this isn't 1. So pay real close attention if you're completing a square and you have negative 1x squared. So, first step is to put this in brackets, but we're going to factor out whatever the coefficient is on x squared. So here it's negative 1. You can just put a negative sign. If it helps you, you can put a negative 1. It doesn't matter. So that's going to be x squared. And then negative 1 times what will give plus 8x. So it's going to be minus 8x. So it's almost the same as if there was no negative, but the signs, you got to watch the signs. Plus 5. Okay, to figure out how to get our perfect square, we take our negative 8 divided by 2, and then square that. So we have x squared minus 8x plus 16, and then minus 16. Okay, here's the danger zone. Negative 1 x squared minus 8x plus 16. And remember, we have to multiply this negative 1 by that when it comes out of the brackets. So it's going to be negative 1 times negative 16, which will be plus 16 plus 5. Okay. In that case, I think now I'll stop writing the negative 1. I'll just write a negative sign. And then what is this the perfect square of? It's x minus 4 squared. And then here we've got plus 16 plus 5, so it's plus 21. And again, you can graph the first and last lines. If you're working on these and the first and last lines are not the same, then I would suggest you graph the first line and a line that's about halfway down and see if they're the same. If these two are the same, it means you have the mistake comes after this line. So you can try graphing the first and fourth. If they're the same, that means the mistake is in the very last line. And if they're different, that would mean the mistake would be there. So the first time it's different is where the mistake is. Okay, I'll do 2 more here. If you're totally ready and you want to start doing some examples, you can go ahead. But I would suggest for most people that it'd be better to watch a couple more. Okay. So here we have some slightly bigger numbers, but it works just the same. Complete the square, we've got 20x squared minus 2000x plus 50,000. So I'm going to factor out the 20. So I have x squared minus 20 times what will give me 2000. So 20, if it was to 1000, would be 100. Plus 50,000. Okay, and then we have to add and subtract to make that perfect square. So we have negative 100 over 2 is negative 50, and negative 50 squared is 2500, 2500. So x squared minus 100x plus 2500 minus 2500. And then we've got plus 50,000. Okay, here's the place to watch. We're going to take this out of the brackets, so we have to multiply it by 20 when we do that. X squared minus 100x plus 2500. And now I've got, let's put this in again, 20 times negative 2500. So that's going to be 50,000. So it'll be minus 50,000 plus 50,000. Okay. And now we write this as a perfect square. It's going to be x minus 50 squared. And then minus 50,000 plus 50,000 is going to be 0. So you can write plus 0 if you want, you don't have to. Okay, done. Alright, one more, and here our coefficient in front of a is just negative 2. So we'll pay extra attention to the signs here. Okay, factor out the negative 2. So x squared, negative 2 plus what gives 8x squared? It'll be plus times, negative 2 times what? Sorry. So negative 2 times negative 4x minus 5. Okay, do our little calculation. So it'll be plus 4, And then we have to subtract our 4. And now as I take that out of the brackets, I have to remember to multiply by the negative 2. So it's negative 2 times negative 4 will be plus 8. Minus 5. So that's negative 2. Alright, and then we write this as a perfect square, x minus 2 squared. And then 8 minus 5 is plus 3. Alright, there you go. Good luck.